author from Chef to Craft to Conqueror. It's a little loud. How is everybody doing today? We are live. All right. This is going to be a quick one. I got a lot going on today. If you have been following the stream, my name is Gabriel Rathwig. I am an author, best-selling author of books such as From Chef to Craft to Conqueror, Book 1, Book 2, Book 3, Book 4, Book 5, and Book 6 soon to be. I've also been doing a stream where I write a book in 30 days or less, starting on September 1st. Today's the 19th. And how I measure that metric is my books are about 100,000 words. And so 100,000 words is 100%. Therefore, every 1,000 words is 1%. Currently, I am going to take my face away and show you. This is my main copy. We're at 39,574 words. And this is my rough copy that I do a speech-to-text translation that I talk, record it, translate it to text, and then I add it to my main copy and rewrite and edit it, which is the new thing I've been doing. Because originally my goal was to write 3,500 words a day. 500 words per half hour, 1,000 words an hour. 3.5 hours, 3,500 words, and that would get me done right at 30 days with a 100,000 word book. Now, however, I'm putting 6,000 to 7,000 to 8,000 words out a day this way. So currently, if you add that 39,574 to this 44,566, that is 84,110. 130, sorry. So 84,130. That means I have 15,870 words left to write. By today, the end of this stream, I'll be a little bit closer, probably to like another 500 words-ish by the end of the stream. I'm not going to be long, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes. I'm doing this thing where I'm going to stream every day. And normally during the week it'll be twice a day, but today just crazy stuff happens and gotta get this book done. So yeah, currently less than 16,000 words to go. I'll do another 2,000, maybe 3,000 today. That'll bring it down to 13-ish, 13, 14. Then tomorrow I'll get it down to 7 or 8, and then Sunday done. And then the stream will take a change. I'll be working 4 to 5 hours straight on rewrites and edits because I have 25 days to get the book released by October 15th because that's my target release date. Write the book in a month, edit within 15 days and release. Well, now I've changed it to write in 21 days, edit and release in the next 24. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. And then starting on the 1st of October, I'll start recording and speech-to-text my next series. And my goal next month is 300,000 words a month. Now, I don't know if I'll hit that, but I'm sure I can hit 200,000 words this way just because I know the method now and I'm getting pretty good at it. What else? Everything else is good. So yeah, crazy, right? I know I'm just talking, but that's kind of what I'm doing now. Here, what I had, the problem was, I don't know if you've been watching the stream, I mixed up some of my file uploads, so they're out of order, so I've been having to figure that out. But this is almost fixed. And then after I do my first round of rewrites and edits, I'll do a second. Sometimes, there it goes. Sometimes the microphone, the USBs get jacked up. You have to unplug and plug them back in. Janky ass MSI. No, it's a great computer, MSI. Thank you very much. I would like to you to sponsor me and give me free stuff. Palias. Anyway, hi to everybody on Kick. Thank you for following and watching as usual. One of you today. Twitch, one of you as well. Hello, hello. Facebook, nobody. X, I don't know. And YouTube, I don't know. So yeah, I'll probably put a podcast on soon and have that playing while I do a little editing. This will probably be only like a half hour, 45-minute stream, because I got to go back out to work, do some more recording. Also, my wife's home today. She's working from home, so that changes. That's why I'm out. It's hard to work from home when somebody's around, especially recording, because you don't want anybody listening to you. It's awkward and embarrassing. If you have not been following the stream, here is me. Let me take a moment to pimp my books. Anybody who watches this at some point, and you will see me, Gabriel Rathwig. You can find all my books on audio and digital. But this is my most famous series, from Chef to Crafter to Conqueror. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm Gamer. That's my second most famous series. This is a standalone White Soul. This is my Earth Online. It's like a stoner comedy. And yeah, and then I have another series, War Academy, which I am gonna put back out soon. So check it out. It's also available on Audible. Yeah, good stuff. The current book I'm writing is From Chef to Craft to Conqueror. Chef to Crafter to Conqueror, Book 6. And if you watch the first stream, September 1, you will get a full rundown of books 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, full synopsis, and what's going on so far in book 6 up until book 6 starts. And then you can follow along and watch everything up until the 10th or 9th. It's just me writing and reading it, and then after the 9th I start recording and everything changes. So, yeah. Anyway, I love the Y-Files. It's so much fun. I'm going to do a little bit of editing here. I'm on chapter 9. My chapters are about 6 pages each chapter, and now we should get going. Man, I get up before. I'm just like so tired by now, you know? That's why I try to get this stuff done early, but I think I'll have a lot more time and a lot more streaming ability when I'm done writing the book, because then I'll be able to focus more bandwidth to it. It's just hard when you're writing a story, doing a bunch of stuff, and blah, blah, blah. Complain. All right. If anybody watches the Y-Files, it's great. It's just conspiracy theories, aliens, cool, crazy shit. But anyway. So yeah, here we go. We're going to do this until I got to go.
When John F. Kennedy took office in 1961, America had allies everywhere. Cuba, Ethiopia, Nicaragua, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Iran, Lebanon, and many others. But the Soviet Union was fueling insurrections against U.S.-friendly governments. Kennedy promised to stop the spread of communism, but the Soviets were pouring billions into military technology, rocket and missile systems, even space exploration. JFK was committed to keeping pace. He wanted more resources in science and technology. He modernized the military and doubled DARPA's budget, and the timing couldn't be better. The global Cold War had evolved into regional proxy wars with the Soviets. A new type of warfare was being fought, guerrilla warfare. Old military strategies wouldn't work. The situation in Vietnam was especially bad. The Viet Cong were hidden under the thick jungle canopy. You can't kill an enemy that you can't see. DARPA proposed a solution, Project Agile. It was pitched to Kennedy as both a scientific and military endeavor. Kennedy signed off immediately. The first phase was called Operation Ranch Hand. Its purpose was to clear the jungle. DARPA developed the rainbow herbicides, named for their container colors, to kill the foliage. Agent Purple was first, then green, then pink. DARPA was combining different herbicides, defoliants, and toxins, looking for the perfect formula to destroy Viet Cong cover. Agent Orange was the winner. Millions of gallons of Agent Orange were sprayed over miles of jungle every day. Leaves fell from trees almost immediately. Another application, and the trees died. Next, Project Agile targeted farms. Agent Orange could destroy miles of crops in a day. They asked South Vietnamese President Diem if he knew which farms were Viet Cong and which belonged to innocent civilians. He said yes, he knew, and he didn't care. If they weren't traitors yet, they would be soon. Kill them all. Now, the US didn't want to do this, but it only had a few hundred military advisors in Vietnam at this time. They didn't want to send more. Better to sacrifice North Vietnamese farmers than US Marines. So it was done. Guilty or innocent, friend or foe, if you were a North Vietnamese farmer, you were targeted. Your crops were destroyed and your soil was poisoned. Replanting was impossible. Agent Orange's effects were instant and devastating, and nobody knew it was only the beginning. As the Vietnam War escalated, so did the use of Agent Orange under DARPA's Project Agile. Project Agile used other tactics. DARPA contractors included social scientists and experts in human psychology. Propaganda spread through leaflets, loudspeakers, and media control. Subliminal technology kept people in heightened emotional states, from minor discomfort to absolute terror.
Subliminal warfare mind control link down the alley, Sally.
Psychological warfare teams targeted villages, turning neighbor against neighbor. Civilians were forced into strategic hamlets for their safety. 4 million people were relocated against their will. Meanwhile, soldiers complained of headaches, nausea, stinging eyes, and rashes. Agent Orange did more than clear jungle and kill crops. It tortured people for life. Thousands exposed to Agent Orange developed cancer. Children were born with defects. Agent Orange caused reproductive problems like infertility and miscarriages. Heart disease and diabetes increased. Agent Orange was first used in 1962. In 1965, scientists discovered it contained dioxin, a highly toxic compound that causes cancer and birth defects. They kept using it. In 1967, a study proved dioxin causes birth defects, even at low concentrations. They kept using it. In 1969, a Department of Defense report acknowledged Agent Orange's severe health risks. They kept using it. Public outcry forced President Nixon to stop the use of Agent Orange in 1970. They kept using it. They stopped spraying the following year, 1971. Now, even in war, there are rules. POWs must be treated humanely. Medical staff and facilities are off limits. Humanitarian aid must be allowed. Breaking these rules is a war crime. In 1907, the Hague Convention banned the use of poison in war. The US signed the treaty. Agent Orange was poison. That's what herbicides are. So was using Agent Orange a war crime? No. The United States said Agent Orange wasn't a poison, it was an herbicide. The treaty didn't specifically mention herbicides.
Oh, that's some lawyer loophole bullshit.
In 1925, the Geneva Protocol banned the use of chemical weapons. The US signed this treaty. But Agent Orange was a chemical. Of the 12 companies producing Agent Orange, the primary manufacturer was the Dow Chemical Company. The word chemical is in the company's name. So is using Agent Orange a war crime? Nope. The United States said Agent Orange wasn't a chemical. It was an herbicide.
Wait, how is that even possible?
It's not. In 1949, the Geneva Conventions established that civilians and their property must not be intentionally targeted. Only combatants and military targets were allowed. The US signed this treaty. But civilians and their farms were intentionally targeted with Agent Orange. So is using it a war crime? No. The United States said the intent was to disrupt the enemy's logistical support and visibility, not cause direct harm to people. In other words, it was an accident. So what about the destruction of plants and trees on civilian land? Those weren't military targets. Isn't this a war crime? No. The United States said it was a military necessity to defoliate the area in order to deny the enemy cover, which makes trees, anywhere, a military target. What about destroying civilian crops? Again, the U.S. only intended to destroy crops of the enemy, not civilians. It was unintentional, so no war crime. In 1977, the Geneva Conventions were amended to specifically ban the use of herbicides and reinforce civilian protection. The U.S. signed this new treaty, but still denied any liability for the damage caused by Agent Orange. However, in 1984, U.S. veterans sued the chemical companies, who settled for $180 million. But the settlement was to support veterans, not an admission of guilt. In 2004, Jill Montgomery, speaking for the Monsanto Company, one of the major suppliers of Agent Orange, she set the record straight.
We're sympathetic with people who believe they've been injured and understand their concern to find the cause. But reliable scientific evidence indicates that Agent Orange is not the cause of serious long-term health effects.
In 1991, finally, the VA started providing benefits to vets exposed to Agent Orange, but the U.S. still denies liability. My father-in-law served in Vietnam. He was exposed to Agent Orange. He's watching, so I won't list his illnesses, but he suffered almost all of them. So in 1991, he applied for his benefits. And I'll admit, the government kept its word. He did receive his benefits. In 2021, it took 30 years. Like so many vets, when his country needed him, he didn't hesitate. But when he needed his country, they said, take a number, get in line, and hope you're still alive by the time we call your name. Do I sound angry? That's because I am. Between 1955 and 1975, 2.7 million people were deployed to Vietnam. 58,000 dead, 300,000 wounded, 3,000 missing or prisoners of war, 1,500 still missing. That's tragic, but it's much worse. The VA estimates 300,000 to 400,000 veterans may have died from illnesses caused by the exposure to Agent Orange. May have. To this day, no single person, agency, company, or government has admitted any wrongdoing or assumed any liability for the millions of lives destroyed by Agent Orange. Now, ordinary people like us have so many rules we have to follow. Don't speed. Check grandma's shoes before she gets on a plane. Pay your taxes even though we're going to steal it and waste your money. Pick up a gun. Shoot at those people. Do what you're told. If we break a law, the government will take our money, seize our property, force us into labor, or lock us in a cell. It all depends on the crime. So we follow the law. But if you're a big chemical company or a government agency, don't worry about the law. You can get away with murder.
It's true. I love myself. I don't want to die.
I needed a minute. The story of DARPA is hard to debunk, and that's because most of it's true. What we know about DARPA's projects come from them. Their websites and official YouTube channel openly share information. They have a podcast called Voices of DARPA. Even the experts in covering DARPA, Annie Jacobson and Sharon Weinberger, get their information from the agency they're writing about. When Jacobson gives a speech, writes a book, or appears in an interview about DARPA, she's not sharing classified information. She's not speculating, she's reporting. She never claims to know anything that we can't find out for ourselves. But still, most information is secret. What we know about DARPA is what they want us to know. There's no transparency, none. Also, DARPA is exempt from laws that other government agencies have to follow, specifically about hiring practices, managing personnel, and managing budgets. They can run the agency however they like. DARPA is only 220 people, that's it, with a budget of almost $4 billion. Now that's a lot of freedom and power, but it's much more than that. DARPA is allowed to fund projects through what's called other transactions. No congressional approval needed, no reporting required. Choose the projects you want to fund and fund them. So who's choosing the projects? Annie Jacobson gives us an unsettling answer.
The real problem is that the individuals who are responsible for deciding what weapon systems are being financed and created in these classified DARPA programs are the very CEOs of defense contractors who stand to financially benefit from these contracts.
Annie Jacobson has said that DARPA is the agency driving the military-industrial complex. That agency is run by the companies that profit from the technology they create. This is exactly what President Eisenhower said would happen. If you make war profitable, you'll always have war. But to be fair, DARPA's innovations have made our lives better. Not just because of cell phones and GPS, DARPA's achievements in prosthetics have allowed paralyzed children to walk again. They've created medical techniques to diagnose illnesses earlier. They've bioengineered tissue and organs that can be used for transplants. They've developed machines that can stabilize injured people in emergency situations. Advanced medical imaging such as ultrasound, MRI, and brain imaging, all created by or alongside DARPA. Now, does the good outweigh the bad? Do DARPA's contributions offset the damage they've done? I don't know, that's not for me to judge. But this story reminds me of the courtroom scene in A Few Good Men.
You can't handle the truth.
Right. When the colonel says, "My existence, while grotesque and incomprehensible to you, saves lives."
You don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
Right. So is DARPA a necessary evil? Is evil even the right word? I don't know. When DARPA was formed in 1958, its mission was to make sure the United States was never again surprised by advanced technology. And for 66 years, DARPA has succeeded in its mission. The U.S. has never been surprised by technology.
Except for the UFOs.
Okay, the U.S. has never been surprised by another country's technology.
Better.
I can't forget all the suffering that DARPA has caused. But DARPA's done so much good, can I forgive? I don't know. I'm disgusted by some of DARPA's actions, by our government's corruption, by the fact that, because of DARPA, bad people get rich from war. But if I'm being honest, which I always am with you, I have to acknowledge that, as an American, we need DARPA on that wall.
Three plus 15 plus 00.
So just to follow up on that Sean Ryan clip, the very day I did his show and told him about that episode, he connected me with someone to help my father-in-law get all his benefits. That day, without me asking for help, just suddenly got a text. Call this number and you'll be taken care of. Because Sean is about as good of a guy as you'll find. And when I say good, I don't mean, yeah, he's a good guy. I mean, he's a force for good in the world. And look, I know he's controversial for some people, but I met the man in person. I spent the whole day with him. And he and his whole staff, his whole team, everybody there was gracious, kind, very complimentary. They're all fans of the channel. We had some great talks and debates about the moon landing and flat Earth and all that stuff. I had a great day with the whole crew. So Sean Ryan is the real deal. Plus, I've been around shooters my whole life. I've never seen anyone shoot like that. Anyway. Checking the notes. Okay. Oh, boy. We're going to keep it going with the dangerous topics. This next one is another one that was uncomfortable releasing. When I did the Killer Patents episode, I ended it with all the free energy inventors that...
Like the hydrogen car guy?
He said he was poisoned. He said he's having lunch with investors to finally take his car ran on water. This is Stanley Meyer. And he's not feeling well and he runs outside. He's throwing up in the street and his brother was his partner and his brother said, "What's going on?" He's like, "I was poisoned." And then he dies. And that was the end of it. No more water car. Killer Patents. The end of this one went viral. See you in a minute. For decades, we've heard about the catastrophic effects of fossil fuel pollution. And for just as long, I've been hearing that global warming is a myth. The two sides are constantly at each other's throats. but it's a fight that's completely unnecessary. The technology to create unlimited, clean, free energy has existed for over 100 years. Dozens, perhaps hundreds of inventors have created machines that pull energy out of thin air, machines that could defy gravity, levitate, and fly, machines that bend the fabric of space-time itself. These machines sound not just like science fiction, they sound like magic. So where are these magical devices? Well, when the inventors patented and publicized their technology, they performed another magic trick. They disappeared. For years, certainly my whole life, we've heard how fossil fuel pollution is creating a runaway greenhouse effect. At some point, the ice caps will melt, the oceans will rise, and every coastline in the world will be underwater. What now?
When? When does it happen? When do we go underwater?
Well, that's hard to...
5 years, 20, 50?
You can't really quantify...
Oh, you can't quantify it, huh?
Look, I don't...
Is Florida still there?
What do you mean?
Let me talk slowly so you can understand. Is Florida still there?
Last I checked, Florida is still there.
Thank you. I rest my case. Global warming is a myth.
It's not a myth. Look, this isn't a video about climate change.
Oh, look, global warming is not climate change.
My point is...
How dare you?
Look, do you want clean air?
Clean air? No, who cares?
Fine, but do you want clean water?
Well, yeah.
Right. The point of this episode isn't to argue one side of the climate debate or the other. The point of this episode is that debating, arguing, and fighting about it isn't necessary, and hasn't been for over 100 years. Since the 1920s, and perhaps even earlier, scientists have discovered many different ways of making energy less expensive and more efficient. However, in every single case, their technology was suppressed. And in many cases, the inventors died under strange circumstances.
Okay, you've got my attention now.
Charles Pogue was a Canadian mechanic and car tinkerer. In the early 1930s, he started experimenting with carburetors, trying to improve fuel efficiency. Now, if you're not a gearhead, a carburetor is a part of a gas-powered engine that mixes air and fuel for combustion. The mixture is then sent to the engine cylinders, where it's ignited to power the engine. Now, unlike traditional carburetors, which mix air with liquid gasoline, the Pogue carburetor fully vaporized gas before it entered the combustion chamber. This made the engine more efficient, much more efficient. In 1936, Pogue was issued a patent for a high-mileage carburetor. This was his third iteration of the invention and his third patent. In early 1936, the Breen Motor Company tested the Pogue carburetor on a Ford V8 coupe. It got 26.2 miles on 1 pint of gasoline. That's almost 220 miles per gallon. Ford tested it. They got 200 miles per gallon. The Pogue carburetor was tested for Canadian Automotive Magazine. They reported 218 miles per gallon. Now, that article created a lot of excitement, but it wasn't good news for Charles Pogue. On the Toronto Stock Exchange, oil company stock prices crashed. Brokers were swamped with orders to dump all oil stock immediately. Soon after that, Pogue's shop was broken into. All carburetors, equipment, notes, and documents were stolen. He never built another one. He never spoke of the invention ever again.
Someone got to him.
That's the rumor. But carburetors aren't complicated. If one man figures out how to make an engine more efficient, others could do this too. And they did. But the oil companies did not forget about Pogue and the damage he almost caused. Fuel-efficient engines were not good for business. So the oil companies lobbied the US government for help. And a few years later, in 1951, help arrived. The concept of patents can be traced back to ancient times, but the formal patent system that we know today came from Renaissance Europe. The first known patent law was enacted in Venice in 1474, and it was a revolutionary idea designed to encourage innovation. It offered
Well, I
inventors
think
a
that's gonna be
temporary
about it.
monopoly in
Alright.
exchange for sharing their inventions with
Quick
society.
today.
But
30 minutes.
some inventions are legally
Sorry, Wi-Files. Wife's done with her work and I gotta go. 43,351 plus 40,861. That's 84,312. So that's 15,700 to go. I know it was a quick stream, wasn't really worthwhile, but I promise I'll be getting longer. Deuces, everybody. Thank you for watching. Again, I know it was fast, but yeah. Take care, YouTube, Kick. Peace as usual. You guys are the best. Twitch, thank you for watching as well. Facebook, adios, as well as UX. Peace.